it's easy to say that we love God and that we love neighbor as ourselves, but from starting this, we sit and we talk to people. Just tell us about your life. So the first couple of meetings could be several hours. It could be an hour. It could be 15 minutes. Depends on a person's story, right? Or their journey. So after listening to people's journeys, like one man in particular, I can remember, he says, well, I love God and I love neighbor, and that's just stupid. I love myself. Well, in reality, sitting and talking, and when he finished everything, he says, I really thought you were kind of wacky. No, I might be wacky, who knows, you know. But he says, I really didn't love myself. And I'm here to say that if you don't have your own dignity and self-respect, it's hard to love others. It really is. So that's one part of the love part of M.I.C.A.H is that it helps to see and give people their dignity, their accountability, and that they see that there's other people worse off. And I think Stevie Wonder put it the best. He goes, we all have abilities. The difference is how we use it. Everyone has something that they can use to give back. And that's what we try to tap in by listening to them and their stories to find out what their ability is. The one thing that we do require if you come into the mentoring part of the program is that you have to do it on a consistent basis. For the seniors, that's very important. So at least choose once a week. There is a commitment there, but it's not one of those that has to be in stone, because we realize that things come up. And if they're just volunteering means that. Now, if they're working for a voucher, that's a different thing. If they have a timeline that they have to, and if you say, for example, you have an electric bill, you have to do the service first. I've never taken a dime for my services. I volunteer all of my time. I've used my own money to bring forth this. Still, most of it is family donations. So even though we are a 501c3, I've never taken a salary. We do everything by volunteerism. Actually, we don't even have to have that many volunteers, because on our end of it is because the people that need the assistance, they do it. So the people that need the help, the money goes to them instead of to run the program. If I stay focused on our mission, the money is there as we need it. Every donation that's given, we send an accountability report to them. To the best of our ability, we attach as many. I'm not really concerned about how many hours or all of that. We do that, but it's the end result that brings joy to those senior citizens, or how we're able to help the mentor if they have a financial need. And it came to mind, a truck driver came in one Sunday to church, and he gave me $10 for M.I.C.A.H. And I said, well, I have to have your address. And he says, why? And I said, because we're going to send you an accountability report on that $10. Oh, no, you don't have to. But it doesn't make any difference if it's $10 or, $1 million. People have the right to see where that funding's going. And we helped a homeless guy, and he was willing to give back, and we bought him, a meal. A lot of it comes through the church. I go to the university, and well, for example, M.I.C.A.H had won an award at this university for outstanding program, and the volunteers, they made it outstanding, right? So again, the people that have the need, that's why they work the program, and the students that mentor with them, or the mentees, or whatever word you want to put with them, they do it. So they deserve the honor, right? So they asked if I would come. And there was this young lady that was getting her PhD. She had done a research on wolves. It was fascinating, but she wasn't part of M.I.C.A.H, but she was being awarded for a scholarship or something. But I noticed that after she won her award, she came back, and I'm just sitting watching because I like watching people. And she'd go up to the table where the food was at. And one time she went up and she took a bag up, and she was filling the bag up. And then she came back and she took her backpack up. And I'm thinking, that girl is hungry. So I'm sitting there, but I'd listened to her story about her research on wolves and how it was an 80-year-old rancher that helped her, and that she had another part of her experiment that she needed to do, but the scientists know he was getting too old. And so I'm sitting there and I'm listening and I'm thinking, well, she's done everything that we asked, right? And we required people to do the service first. So I walked up to her and so I said, your story was fascinating. Congratulations on all your awards. And she deserved them. And I says, but this is a little personal. And so if I'm stepping out of bounds, forgive me, but I'm going to ask you anyway. I said, are you hungry? I couldn't help but notice that she's taking, the food from the table and she says, well, actually I am. And so for her to register for the next, her bursar had to be paid. So the bottom line is she had paid her bursar account, but she had no money to eat on. And so I said, well, you actually qualify for what we do at M.I.C.A.H. And so because she'd already done the service, we wrote her a check for a certain amount of money, and she was able to go buy food. That's how so many of the people come they come. It's very rewarding when you can reward people that's already done a good deed. By referral, by churches. I've had people walk, if I'm known in the area where I'm at, they'll walk up to me because they know what we do. And sometimes it's just, I meet someone. I was sitting in my office one day. And when I started, I had the brick and mortar. It was donated to me, but you still had the utilities. You had all the overhead that can eat up so much of the money, right? And so it didn't take long to figure out. We were doing all the training where the people were doing the service. So I didn't need it. But I was sitting there as a young man. It was a group home across the street. And this guy would come and he'd wave at me, And so I'd wave back at him. And so one day he got the nerve to come and knock on the door. And so he said, hi. He says, I'm going to call him Reggie. Okay. He says, Reggie wants to work. This is when I just had designed it as a volunteer program. I said, you do? And I said, well, Reggie, what do you want to work at? And he says, I like old people. But I looked down and Reggie had shoes on that had duct tape around them. And so I thought, wow, that kid needs shoes. So I walked over. Like I say, I'm pretty bold. So I walked over and knocked on the door and I said, may I talk to Reggie's case manager? And of course, confidentiality is really important, And so we designed a plan. I personally mentored with Reggie. This was in the very beginning. Reggie was a kleptomaniac. So you couldn't, you had to have somebody to mentor with him. And at the time, this was just right when we first started M.I.C.A.H. And so I did it with him. So we sit down and Reggie, we believe in necessities, but we also believe in fun. And so we sat down and made a plan for Reggie to get new shoes. The only thing we required is that they needed to be leather. He could buy them wherever he wanted because he was going to do the service for it, right? And then he loved video games, his caseworker said. So then we allotted so much for that. So long story short, he did what he wanted. The residents absolutely loved him. Anyway, so he's running through Walmart. That's where he wanted to go. He ran through Walmart holding his shoes saying, Reggie worked. Reggie worked. Reggie had never had a job. So you can't put a price on that. Started out at Oklahoma State University. Oklahoma State, of course, is we have a lot of graduates from there. I'm at OU now, and I just made contact with some folks here. Working at the university level is some of these students won't even apply for a scholarship because they have to do an essay, for the scholarship. We partnered up with a big corporation and we gave out scholarships. And so to get the scholarship, they didn't have to write anything to get the scholarship, but they had to do volunteer service. And so we did ask them to write at least 2 or 3 sentences or half a page of their experience of what they learned from it. And not everybody is it's not their desire to talk to senior citizens, and we understand that. And so we partnered up with another nonprofit that has they use horse therapy. Their corrals and things needed to be painted. Okay, but they always have to, if they do a scholarship with us, they have to do at least 2 or 3 hours with senior citizens. They have to. That's just because that's the basis of what M.I.C.A.H is about. And then we will place them with other nonprofits. And so then they have to do the senior citizens first. And so, because we found that if they don't, and everyone to the man that we offered these scholarships, and it came through Dollar Tree actually, they had to do the service, and every one of them, when they wrote the letter or the page afterwards to get the scholarship, just to give us feedback is what it was. They said, you know, we didn't want to do anything with the senior citizens. That was our favorite part. And they went ahead and painted the corrals and things like that. But if we can get them in there, they all love it. They love it. And it fills that void for them too if they don't have it. So they have to do the paper after they do the service, after they experience what they experience, and then write it. It's really amazing, because then you can see their heart, and that's what I'm after, is the heart. We still have the forms that we use in our training from the Girl from Domestic Violence. And people, when we're doing the training, they'll say, well, there's a misspelled word right there, or this isn't correct. And I said, yeah, I know. Well, why do you do that? I said, because I've not met a perfect person yet. And I think that's important, because we have a society that everybody wants to be perfect, and none of us are. So we keep that form just to keep us to remember that we're not perfect. And by the end, when someone comes out, they'll say, that's a good idea. You need to keep this form, because I've really learned a lot from that form. It's been a journey. It's been a wonderful tool on how to deal with people. It's been a growth. I think anyone that's involved with us, they are not the same person when they came that they are now. So our ultimate goal is that every senior citizen knows that they're going to have someone visit them at least once a week.